Welcome back, fellow Hammers. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share the video if you can. It all helps keep the claret and blue spirit strong. The warning signs are impossible to ignore, and the message coming from the stands could not be clearer. When supporters begin to stay away, any experienced football chairman knows that something is deeply wrong. A simple glance at West Ham United's official website already reveals a staggering number of available seats for matches that, not so long ago, were guaranteed sellouts. Just a few years ago, when the Hammers were riding a wave of optimism, tickets were almost impossible to find. Local supporters and tourists alike packed the stadium week after week, creating an atmosphere that felt alive, intimidating, and unmistakably West Ham. It was a time when the club felt reconnected with its people. That reality has now shifted dramatically. Official figures released by Newnham Council, following a Freedom of Information request, exposed attendance numbers that shocked even the most pessimistic observers. Of the 8 matches played at the Stratford Arena between August and the 13th of December, only 2, against Chelsea and Liverpool, surpassed 53,000 spectators. These figures clearly highlight the gap between claims of near 60,000 crowds and the actual number of supporters inside the stadium. A quiet boycott, combined with poor performances and an uninspiring product on the pitch, has taken its toll. Even heavily discounted initiatives failed to fill the modern, yet often criticized London stadium. The match against Sunderland underlined the issue even further, with thousands of empty seats remaining unsold. West Ham supporters are famously loyal, but they are not naive. With many tickets still costing £70 or more for a Saturday lunchtime kickoff, a growing number of fans appear unwilling to pay premium prices for an experience that no longer delivers excitement or pride. This detachment did not appear overnight. It is the result of mounting frustration that boiled over towards the end of last year, when protests became increasingly visible. Chants, banners, and clear calls for change targeted the club's leadership, with many supporters demanding the immediate departure of David Sullivan and Karen Brady, whom they hold responsible for the club's decline. Each empty seat now represents more than a missing supporter. It is a statement, a signal from fans who feel ignored, undervalued, and disconnected from the club they have always backed. If this downward trend is not halted, the consequences could be severe. And with the threat of relegation looming, imagining what these attendance figures could look like next season is deeply troubling. If the decline continues, it may prove to be another symbolic nail in the coffin for the Sullivan-Brady era. With relegation a real possibility, the prospect of next season's attendance figures is deeply concerning. Before we carry on, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. This is really important because it strengthens the Claret and Blue family, making our West Ham bigger and stronger every day. West Ham United have moved decisively to secure the signing of Khyber Lamadrid from Deportivo La Guaira, strengthening their squad during the winter transfer window. Interest in the 22-year-old winger intensified over recent days, with reports from Venezuela suggesting the deal had already reached an advanced stage. After receiving permission from his club, Lamadrid traveled to Europe and headed to Paris, where he began final negotiations. The Venezuelan attacker focused on personal terms, medical examinations, and the necessary administrative steps required to play in English football, with securing a work permit seen as a key hurdle. The latest developments have been extremely encouraging for the Hammers. The bureaucratic obstacles have been resolved, medical tests completed, and the player is believed to have already signed his contract. Although the exact terms have not been disclosed, there is strong expectation that the club will make the signing official in the coming hours. The deal has been overseen by the coaching staff led by Nuno Espirito Santo, who views the Venezuelan as a flexible option with significant room for development. Lamadrid is most comfortable on the wing, but is also capable of operating as a wing-back or in more central areas, offering valuable tactical versatility. Lamadrid arrives after a productive spell with Deportivo La Guaira, where he recorded 14 goals and 7 assists across 104 appearances. He has also made his international debut for Venezuela, underlining his status as one of the country's emerging talents. The agreement is structured as a loan until the end of the season, with an option for a permanent transfer. Initially, the winger is expected to link up with West Ham's development squad, allowing a gradual adaptation to English football. However, the club remains fully engaged in the market, particularly given their delicate league position and proximity to the relegation zone. This move comes amid a busy January for West Ham, who have already added attacking options such as Tati Castellanos and Pablo Felipe. At the same time, attention has turned to the goalkeeping department, with the club exploring competition for Alphonse Areola and holding talks earlier in the window for Al Nassr goalkeeper Bento. The search for another goalkeeper has raised questions following the recent investment in Mads Hermansen, signed from Leicester City for £18 million. Hermansen has featured sparingly in the league this season and only returned to the starting lineup during West Ham's extra-time FA Cup victory over QPR at the beginning of January. With the squad undergoing change and the transfer window still open, Keber La Madrid's arrival represents both a long-term investment and an immediate attempt by Nuno Espirito Santo to inject energy and competitiveness into the group at a critical point in the campaign. Before we carry on, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. This is really important because it strengthens the Claret and Blue family, making our West Ham bigger and stronger every day. West Ham United find themselves at a moment where different warning signs, coming from different directions, all point towards the same conclusion. On one side, increasingly empty stands, a supporter base that feels exhausted, critical, and distant, using silence and absence as a form of protest. On the other, a boardroom attempting to respond through transfer activity, seeking urgency, reaction, and visible movement during a season shaped by instability and pressure. The decline in attendances cannot be explained solely by results on the pitch. It carries a far deeper emotional weight. West Ham supporters have always taken pride in standing by their club through difficult times. When thousands of seats remain empty at the London Stadium, it signals a clear fracture in trust. Not just disappointment with defeats, but a sense of lost identity and broken connection. That disconnection became impossible to ignore towards the end of last year, when protests grew louder and more organized. Chants calling for change, banners demanding resignations, and public expressions of anger reflected a growing belief among supporters that the club's leadership is at the heart of the decline. Many fans place responsibility squarely on the shoulders of David Sullivan and Karen Brady. Within this heavy atmosphere, the transfer window has taken on a symbolic role. Moves such as the arrival of Keber La Madrid are not viewed merely as squad additions, but as attempts to show direction and intent. Under Nuno Espirito Santo, there is a clear effort to refresh the group, introduce new energy, and alter the emotional dynamic of a squad struggling for consistency. Yet the modern West Ham supporter watches with caution rather than excitement. Signings alone are no longer enough. There is a prevailing feeling that the issues run deeper than the playing staff, and that without broader structural change, even promising reinforcements risk being swallowed by an unstable environment. The demand is no longer just for better football, but for coherence and clarity. League position only sharpens the tension. Sitting just a handful of points above danger transforms every decision into a defining one. January becomes less about long-term planning and more about survival. Each new arrival is judged not on potential, but on immediate impact, with the specter of relegation hovering over every conversation among supporters. At the same time, ongoing activity in key positions highlights internal contradictions. Recent investments, limited continuity, and shifting priorities have reinforced the belief among fans that planning has been inconsistent. This perception feeds directly into the protests witnessed last year, strengthening the narrative of a club drifting without a clear long-term vision. Historically, West Ham United has always represented more than league position. It has stood for community, identity, and defiance. When those values feel diluted, the damage is profound. Empty seats, public protests, and an atmosphere of constant tension do not emerge by accident. They are symptoms of a relationship in crisis between club and supporter. This period now stands as a genuine crossroads. The choices made in the coming weeks, both on and off the pitch, will shape not only the outcome of the season, but the future bond between West Ham and its fan base. Repairing that bond will require more than goals or transfer announcements. It will demand transparency, consistency, and a renewed respect for the traditions and voices that have always defined this club. In a football institution built on strong voices, ignoring the silence may prove the most dangerous mistake of all. We'll wrap it up here for now. If you liked the content, give it a thumbs up, share it around, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching. See you soon.